the nature of socialism, is for their economic policies to fail to adjust to reality. Because economic reality is evolving every day. It's millions of decentralized entrepreneurs and consumers who are making fine-tuning adjustments to this.
In our capitalist society, when COVID hit,
what did we start seeing? Millions of entrepreneurs adjusting without government orders of how to deliver their products and services.
Servers have switched roles to delivery drivers, while bartenders have turned into sales reps.
Restaurants installed the heat lamps, expanded patios, did delivery.
Although reporters complained about the absence of federal direction, no central authority could possibly direct all these individual adjustments in thousands of different places. In fact, federal direction would have prevented all that.
What's going on, everyone? Starts with Kenny here. Today we're reacting to a video, 5 socialism myths. One thing I noticed is socialism is starting to become very popular. I want to hear this guy's argument, but I'm pretty sure I'm a capitalist all the way. I believe capitalism is the most fair system in the world, and I think we already tried socialism. It's just socialists don't want to admit, because they have this vision of how socialism is supposed to be, and they believe no one has ever tried it. But I think it's because they don't recognize the flaw in the socialism system is that it's centralized, and it'll take like damn near a perfect person to implement socialism the way they think socialism should be applied. But hey, I digress. Let's get into the video.
A pandemic called capitalist corporate greed. Yeah.
People eagerly find fault with capitalism.
If capitalism works, if this is the best we got, why does it seem to give such a raw deal?
A raw deal? Is that what we get? I hear that from people now working for Joe Biden.
Do I look like a radical socialist?
Not especially, but with so many upset about America's wealth disparities. It's time to take a closer look at the socialism these people want.
Eat the rich, feed the poor. This is a class war. Wow, bars. Well, one of the problems I see with socialism, and the main argument I guess I'll have for socialism, or the main critique I have against it, is that it punishes the most productive people in our society, which is the rich. In a capitalist system, it's a voluntary system. I don't care what you guys want to, cry or complain to me in the comment section. The only reason capitalism is corrupt is because the government is involving itself in capitalism, into the private sector, right? This is why I'm a free market capitalist. I have to put that distinction, because minute government gets involved in anything, it becomes corrupt, because you got bureaucrats running the system. But I digress. The wealthy, I think, contributes 90% of our tax dollars. So when I hear people saying tax the rich, I'm like, you want to tax a group of people that's already paying 90% of the tax money that's going through the government right now, and you want more money? So by my synopsis, taxing the rich is a greedy and almost selfish proposition. Like, imagine if you were contributing 90% of a resource in your team, and the team was like, hey, we need more from you, Kenny. You're going to be like, yo, this is unfair. I'm already contributing 90% of the resources. What more you want from me? You'll come across as greedy. And this is how I see socialists. Socialists come off as greedy because they feel entitled to other people's resources. That's my number one issue with socialism. But I digress. Let's continue.
This is class war.
We are committed to transforming our society into one based on freedom, equality, and solidarity.
The belief that socialism will bring that is why it's now as popular as capitalism among young people. Another big reason is, oddly, this 90-year-old, linguist Noam Chomsky. Students study his work in class.
And I did a video with Thomas Sowell about unmasking academia. And one of his main points is it's mostly leftist. So you get all these college professors, they don't get challenged really, because in there, the theories, the marketplace of ideas, it almost seems like a popularity contest. So these professors are here professing socialism and all this stuff, saying it hasn't been tried yet. And young people, young college kids go into these universities, and this is why they get indoctrinated into a more of a left-wing point of view. And I think it's heavily due to all this bias that's in the college system. But yeah, I digress.
Colleges pay him up to $30,000 to speak.
Thanks very much.
Yet for generations, Chomsky misled students by calling capitalism a grotesque catastrophe. I thought the fall of Soviet communism would put an end to such nonsense. Surely everyone would now see the catastrophe is socialism. But no, socialism has come back strong. So in this video and the next, we'll bust 5 myths about socialism. The first is the claim that wasn't real socialism.
The Soviet Union, this was about as remote from socialism as you can imagine.
It's absurd to say that the Soviet Union was remote from socialism.
Economist Ben Powell reminds us that when the Soviets made private business illegal,
that's about as close as the world ever saw to the pure socialist end of the spectrum.
Yeah, like this, I don't care about your perceptions. Oh, that wasn't real socialism. I'm looking at the reality. I'm observing. Okay, if that wasn't socialism, what was it? Because the people that were in charge of these systems, Stalin, Mao, Hitler, they were socialists. They called themselves socialists. They identified with socialism. And a lot of the things they were doing was following the implementations of putting in a socialist society. And then it progressed further into becoming a communist society. But you want to still sit here and claim that, oh, it hasn't been tried yet. Based on what I observed, they tried it numerous ways, numerous styles, different versions, different flavors of it, and it all seems to fail. And then for some reason, you arrogant enough to think that you are so special, you're so beyond them that you will be the one to implement socialism correctly. I doubt it, but I digress.
whenever socialism fails, people always say that wasn't real socialism.
It doesn't prove anything about socialism in other countries.
Working people have to be in control of production. The Soviet Union was the exact opposite of that. Working people had no control over anything.
But that's the problem. That is what socialism inevitably delivers.
Socialism means abolishing private property in the major things that go into production and replacing it with some form of collective ownership. In practice, this means state ownership and control.
Yeah, collective ownership, right? If I have a car, I'm the one who paid for the car. I'm the one who can maintain the car. But end of the day, it's everyone's property. Everyone can use it as they see fit. Everyone can have access to it, the same level of access as me. But I'm the one that's providing for it. I'm the one that's maintaining it. You're saying that everyone has an equal claim to that property? It's crazy. I'm gonna feel used. I'm gonna be like, yo, I'm the one putting money into this thing. I'm gonna stop working on the car. And then what happened when I stop working on the car? It breaks down. It's not maintained. People will try to mess with it, fix it, because it's community property, right? And if I don't get any direct benefit, right? If I just have the same level of benefits and access to the car, but I'm putting in most of the work, I'm gonna be disenfranchised not to work to maintain the car. This is why all these socialist countries, communist countries, eventually start adopting more capitalism stuff. Like, for instance, what happened with China. China was a big socialist country, big communist country. And then they noticed that their economy was stagnating. So what they try to do, they started leaning more towards capitalism. They started implementing more capitalistic policies in their economy. And look at them. Now they're the second largest economy in the world. Sweden. Most people think Sweden is a socialist country. It was socialist. Now it's considered a capitalist country because it started incorporating capitalistic policies in its socialism system. And it's starting to veer away from socialism because people are being adequately rewarded for their contributions to society. And that's the main problem with socialism. Socialism makes it, everyone should get paid the same, but not everyone's contributing the same. And those who feel like they're contributing more than the other will be disenfranchised not to continue delivering that value. And then once that happens, your system starts falling apart. And then the next case scenario is, let's force these productive people to work at their capacity. And how are you going to do that? How are you going to force somebody against their will to do something that is only in the benefit of the collective, but not themselves? You have to threaten them with violence or kill them. And this is why socialism kills so many people. Because that's what happens. And then you can't destroy the human incentive. There has to be something in it for the individual. Because usually one individual doesn't work at the same capacity as another individual. But hey, I digress. I'm rambling. Let's get back into the video.
The Soviet Union had an abundance of that.
Of course, the Soviet Union is now gone, so some say
There is no true socialist country that exists today.
But there is. Look at Venezuela.
Just eating is a luxury.
When I say socialism created hardship there, people trash me on my own social media. Read a book. Venezuela's not socialist. Think a bit. I'll do better than that. I'll listen to the politician who wrecked Venezuela.
El capitalismo es el reino de la injusticia.
Because capitalism is tyranny. Hugo Chavez said his government must take over businesses.
¿Y este edificio?
Es un edificio que tiene comercio privado de joyería.
Expropiese. Expropiese.
That's socialism. The socialists turned the richest country in Latin America, the nation with the biggest oil reserves in the world, into the poorest country.
But it's not clear that that crisis has anything to do with their socialist policies.
That's myth too. Venezuela's failure has
little to do with socialism and a lot to do with poor governance. Some of Chavez.
But that's my point. It leads into my point, and this is the concerns we have. This is why I'm such a big advocate of limited government, decentralized authority, decentralized control, is because when you when you centralize everything, all it takes is for one bad actor to come in and destroy your whole system, because he has that system, the government has control of every aspect of human life in your country. And your system is supposed to be resilient against bad actors. That's what makes a system great. This is why capitalism works so well, because it's a voluntary system. If my greedy butt wants to get rich, I have to provide value for the masses to voluntarily give me their money so I can become a billionaire, a millionaire. That's the whole point of capitalism. It's resilient against bad actors, because a bad actor will be like, damn, I have to provide value to the masses for me to get rich, for me to gain power, for me to gain influence. Socialism don't have that. All socialism says is I just got to know the right person, and all he has to do is appoint me, and boom, I have control over my actions can affect mass swaths of people in my country. And this is the problem that socialists have to address if they want the so-called real socialism to work. Because it sounds like real socialism will never happen unless a perfect human being is in position of power in that government. I'm just saying. But I digress. Let's continue.
His programs could have been sustainable if he pursued a sound economic policy.
Yeah, some of his policies could be sustainable if he had a sound economic policy called capitalism.
Why does it have to be capitalism? Oliver is saying if he just managed it better.
It's a story about epic mismanagement.
Or here's how Al Jazeera puts it.
Economic policies have failed to adjust to reality.
That's the nature of socialism, is for their economic policies to fail to adjust to reality. Because economic reality is evolving every day. It's millions of decentralized entrepreneurs and consumers who are making fine-tuning adjustments to this.
In our capitalist society, when COVID hit,
what did we start seeing? Millions of entrepreneurs adjusting without government orders of how to deliver their products and services.
Exactly. Because imagine this. Imagine that for millions of people, one person have to make the decisions for millions of people. Your solution won't be perfect for millions of people. But if you put the decision like, hey, millions, every person in that million people was responsible for their own choices, for their own livelihood, for their own cost, and you just give them the resources, they will better know how to manage it for their specific case. But if one person is trying to make a general statement, oh, this in general will work for everybody, it's not going to be an effective strategy for everybody. But if you put the resources and the decision making into the individual's hands, that individual will better be able to do things for their individual situation. And they will be more effectively able to use the resources more effective than one central authority that's supposed to make decisions on behalf of millions of people. Two brains are better than one. But in socialism, it's saying one brain is better than millions. And this is why socialists have such a almost adoration for experts and people of power and authority, because they look up to them to be some type of leader. Well, in capitalism is like, yo, it's a free market. If you don't believe this person making a good product, start your own. And then get customers and prove your worth. To me, capitalism is the closest to nature than any other economic system known to man currently. Because capitalism is just like survival of the fittest. The smartest people don't survive. The strongest people don't always survive. It's the person that's able to adapt to the environment. That's what capitalism say. Hey, whoever's better at adapting to the customer's needs and wants will be the richest company. That's it. Provide value. But yeah, I digress.
Servers have switched roles to delivery drivers, while bartenders have turned into sales reps.
Restaurants installed the heat lamps, expanded patios, did delivery.
All the reporters complained about the absence of federal direction. No central authority could possibly direct all these individual adjustments in thousands of different places. In fact, federal direction would have prevented all that.
In a market economy, the great thing is everybody's little adjustments gets tested and we get to see what works.
Blockbuster was great, but then people were offered something better.
TV shows and movies at your command.
By contrast,
in a socialist economy, you get a one-size-fits-all adjustment, and you miss out on this learning process where some entrepreneurs copy others when they see things successful, and they stop doing it when it's not.
Exactly. Empirical evidence. Hey, the government will say everyone has to do this way. And if you go against what the government says, you get prosecuted. This is the problem with socialism. If you're a socialist, you think that you know what's best for millions of people, right? You think you know what's best for me. When I'm like, no, at best, I know what's best for myself. And I can give advice and say, hey, look, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. You can adopt the same thing or you cannot. But that's up to you as the individual to make that decision. This is why I believe that people shouldn't come on here and try to tell people how to think about something. You should just give the information, give your thoughts, give your perspective, and the person on the other side of this screen make the decision for themselves whether they believe it or not, or whether it's valid in their situation or not. That's capitalism. You reward all the billionaires and millionaires, these people, these socialists complain about, they're voluntarily giving their money to them. You have a problem with Jeff Bezos, socialist? Are you using Amazon Prime right now? If you are, you're inadvertently rewarding Jeff Bezos for having the idea, the implementation, and the ability to execute on his vision. You're rewarding him for that. And then at the same token, you want to feel entitled to his money because of socialism, equality, when you're not providing the same value as Jeff Bezos. And that's the number one problem. This is why people like capitalism so much. Because if I have a grand idea, if I'm providing a lot of value to millions of people, I want to be compensated for that. I'm not a slave to the collective. And that's the point. That's the problem with socialism. In our current system right now, there's not stopping anybody, no corporation, from running their company like a socialist system. There's nothing stopping y'all. I'm just saying.
Not.
For example, East Germany's socialist planners pushed these Trabants.
Bequem für 4 Erwachsene.
They said the cars were great.
Wendig. Schnell.
But it was a terrible car. Hard to drive, and it spewed pollution. Even when West Germans were building Volkswagens, BMWs, and Porsches, East Germans were stuck with Trabants.
In a socialist economy, every one of the minor adjustments needs to be commanded. One mind who has to know all of those teeny adjustments, communicate it down, and get everybody to do the right thing.
That's why I said socialism could only work with some super being, some superhuman. Did I say it? God. Only God can make socialism work, because you have to know all these little intricacies, and there's no way possible that one individual will have all this knowledge, all this breadth of expertise in these. No, it's too specific. But I digress. I digress.
That's impossible.
No government department can manage millions of individual decisions and prices. When they try, shortages occur, and money loses value.
If you work the whole month, you can buy 1 hamburger.
Here's another excuse for Venezuela's failure.
Oil prices plummeted in 2014, and Maduro failed to adjust.
Vox made this video called "The Collapse of Venezuela Explained." In the whole video, they never mention socialism once. They blame falling oil prices.
The oil price is a complete distraction. There's plenty of countries around the world that depend on oil revenue. When oil prices went down, the people there didn't start losing weight. That just happened in Venezuela.
Finally, some people respond to my videos by saying people in Venezuela and Cuba struggle not because of socialism, but because of our sanctions and embargo.
Always throwing the responsibility on someone else. It's someone else's fault my life didn't go the way it go. Oh, it's because I was born this way is why I'm not successful in my life, right? Typical social. This is the allure of socialism, right? They say, hey, it's always someone else's fault. It's these external factors' fault. If only we were in control of people in power, we can do what we can make this society a good society, a utopian society. This is why I'm saying, if you're a type of person that believes that a utopia can exist in this world, you don't live in real life. You live in a fantasy land. This is why they say most utopians, whatever, is technically could be described as a dystopian, because there's trade-offs you make. To me, I don't think it's possible to ever have a utopian society. And if you're a socialist because you believe it's some type of utopia, then you see the problem here. A perfect human being has to come down from heaven and rule the world for socialism to work. That's my argument. And like I said, my perception is we're all flawed. We all got our setbacks. We all got our weaknesses. There's no way we can account for everything. So you want a flawed human being to be at the top of power where he can have his decisions, can have influences on millions of people with no checks or no balances. And then you're going to call him, oh, he governed bad. That's why it didn't work. Anyone would have governed it bad. Some may have done it slightly better than others, but eventually there'll be some fault. There'll be a hole. There'll be a blind spot that this person is not accounting for, and it will cause more problems than it's worth. But hey, keep shifting the blame to something else. It's always something else's fault. No, none of these people can ever take accountability for their failed ideas, and this is my number one problem, especially with the Democratic Party, because they play the same playbook as the socialists. When things don't go the way it's expected to go, oh, it's because we didn't implement it properly. Oh, it's because all these other politicians were getting in our way, voting against the best interests of the people. But hey, I digress.
They certainly don't help the people, but it's an afterthought as a reason for their suffering.
In Cuba,
they drive around 1950s U.S. cars, but we don't have a blockade on them. There's no U.S. Navy destroyers preventing Kia, Fiat, or whoever else around the world from sending them cars. The reason for their suffering is they have an economic system that can't deliver.
In our next video, more myths about socialism, like progressives claim that democratic socialism is different.
The key word for them, democratic.
Democratic socialism is your kid's public school.
Wow. Let me know if you guys want me to continue with this part. I like the fact that he breaks up the video, so I might just make a video series on socialism myths. Me reacting to socialism myths. Let me know if you guys want to see that. But let me hear your thoughts about this in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.